Hi, my name's Alison Ray and I'm here today to talk to you about how we use Helix Personas across our clients to target, build out user profiles and create customer journeys that are really impactful across the whole selling process. So I'm the General Manager at Town Square, and Town Square has been working with Helix since 2019, which is about half of its life, but it feels like a long time for us, and it's one of the tools within our agency that is really popular with people, not just because it's easy to use and it provides such insightful data, but it's almost a light bulb moment when they come in and they see what we can do with this tool and how we're using it across our business and across our clients' business to really make a big impact. So I am old enough that when I started in this industry, we were called advertising agencies. We're not anymore, we're communications agencies. And my kids often ask me, what ads have you made? And they don't see a lot of the work I do because it doesn't end up on TV or radio or those typical places that it would have once. And that's because the way we work has changed significantly. And our categories that we work in, travel and tourism, hospitality, property, retail, has changed significantly too as customers have. So this is just a little snapshot about Town Square, but what I really want to talk to you about is how we use the Helix Personas. So we use them in all the normal ways, and you might have seen some other presenters who've explained how they use it. We also work with clients who have a Helix membership as well, tagging their databases and looking at their personal customer data in terms of what does that look like against the different segments. We use it for media planning and buying, of course. But what I want to take you through today is how our property and retail clients use it for catchment analysis and forecasting our target audiences and where our future sales are going to come from. So let's talk about how we do that. For example, I'm going to take you through a little piece of property that many people will know up near Byron Bay. Now, we like to call this Hemsworth territory, but it might surprise you that everybody who lives up there isn't a Hemsworth and doesn't have that money to spend. So when you're looking to sell property in that area, it's really important that you drill down into what that audience and demographic looks like. This area used to actually be industrial, and so there's still remnants of that come through when we look at our target audiences. Now, if you live in a metro area and you are about to buy a new home, you're likely to buy within 20 minutes of where you live now. But in a regional area like this, they're likely to buy within an hour of where they live now. And if anyone knows people who are from regional areas and you say it's an hour's drive, they don't think that's a big drive at all. So when we start to look at our catchment analysis, we go all the way from Byron down to Ballina, which is about 30 k's or 25 minutes in the car. For this customer audience, this catchment is a relative time in which they would buy in any of these different locations. So what we're trying to find out here is who are the different people who live in these locations? What do they look like? What are their demographics? And this is really where we start to use Helix. We look at the resident composition. So this gives us a really detailed audience summary of these various catchments. What does Ballina look like? What does Byron look like? Who are the different personas that are coming through? Are they leading lifestyles like the Hemsworths, or are they fair go? Are they just that average Aussie who loves where they live right near the coast? So this is really important to us because we start to see that it's not all the same. There might be some similarities in there, but who are the people that we think are the most important for us to target? And you can see we look at these different catchment areas and we start to see what are the biggest personas within them. Where are we finding convergence and where are we finding some of these outliers? And you will always find outliers. People tree change, people see change. But what's really important for us is that we start to see who are these people that are going to buy this potential new property project. Now, as I spoke earlier, our clients often have their database tagged with Helix Personas as well because they work closely with Roy Morgan too. And that allows us to go into our mapping at an even different level where we can start to look at where do inquiries come from. So, and this is really important because we might be selling in New South Wales, but if all of the inquiries are coming from Victoria, we can start to build a picture and go that these are investors. They're not actually people who want to live there straight away. Or maybe they're sea changers who are actually looking to make that next move. And what's really important after looking at where our inquiries have come from, as we all know, an inquiry isn't a sale, and most of us have inquired about a property that we never were going to buy. Where are our sales coming from? So who is actually buying this? What are those communities? What are those people? And this is important not only in terms of who do we start to target, but looking at what's going to make up this new community we're building. We start to see if everyone who was buying in this area was coming from Queensland or Victoria, there's probably a fairly strong investor interest in this location. What does that mean? When the community's built, it's going to have a lot of rentals within it. How does that impact the community we're building? Does it impact how people will live there? The makeup of people who will live there? So all of this data is so important for us, and we're building out who we're going to target and who is interested in these properties that we're selling. Using this information, we created a target audience snapshot. And this is all underpinned by that source data from Helix. So who is our primary audience? Who is the most likely, who has the propensity to buy, and who has the ability to buy? And this is really important because, like I said, inquiries aren't sales. Lots of people might like to live in Byron Bay. Can they actually live there? So identifying who are those primary and secondary target audiences, and then we can start to build out a real idea of what they look like. And why this is so important for us is that we use Helix as part of a puzzle that we're putting together to understand our customer. It's not the only data source we use. Obviously, we have our Helix data, we have qualitative customer research where we actually speak to customers, we have client data, sales, inquiries, other information they can provide, and we always have a cultural context. And this is really important when you're thinking about property. Anyone at the moment would think that, you know, no one's buying property, no one can afford it, the Great Australian Dream is dead. This Great Australian Dream is not dead. People are inquiring on property, but people are scared. People are worried about the economic context. And this is the cultural situation we're going into with these projects, and we need to understand that. Because instead of just convincing people to buy a home with us, we need to convince them, first of all, it's a smart time to move, when everything they're hearing is telling them that it's not. So Helix is part of this puzzle we're putting together, part of this picture of our customer that we're trying to put together. And why this is really important is, and why we go so deep, and I actually haven't shown you how deep we go yet, that comes next, is limited data such as demographics will only get you so far. And I'm sure a few people have seen this, but if I tell you that someone's male, born in 1948, raised in the UK, married twice, lives in a castle, and is wealthy and famous, you probably have a picture in your mind already. And if you said King Charles, well, yes, you'd be right. But if you said Ozzy Osbourne, you'd also be right. Those factors apply to both of them. Now, if I was selling arthritis cream or reading glasses, probably both of these guys would be in my target audience. But the fact is I'm selling property, and this is the largest single purchase most people in the world will make in their life. And it is also the most emotional, logical purchase most people will make in their life. And anyone who lives in an older Federation renovated home that they fell in love with and then froze through their first winter understands that you don't always make a logical decision when it comes to property. So when you only go so surface level with the information you're looking at, you don't get into the detail of need states, of their problems and challenges, of their drivers and aspirations, and of the values of the audience. So both King Charles and Ozzy Osbourne might need reading glasses, but I don't think they want to live next door to each other. And that's the information that we're trying to build out through this process, and where Helix Personas really comes in. So using the information that we're gathering through Helix Personas, we create these bespoke personas for our projects based on who our buyers might be. So these aren't about saying they're leading lifestyles or they're making the rent. It's actually taking that and turning it into real people. So I might have Adam and Alana, who are our first home buyers who've lived in the area and they're ready to move out and make something their own. I might have Mike, who's an investor, and he's gathering properties along the eastern seaboard to build his future. Or I might have Ramesh here, who is a new Australian home buyer. Now, 30 to 40% of the current immigration into Australia is from South Asian countries. And these countries the people are coming here for a better life. They're coming here and they're looking to buy new. They don't want to renovate. They don't want to buy into those older suburbs. They want to have something new and different. So you can see here, building out those demographics is really important, but also understanding what's their role in the process. Who's their influence? I talked about Adam and Alana. Their influence is going to be their parents, but not to any extent as Ramesh and his wife, who the family and how they consider the purchase as aspirational, as a move up in the world, is going to be so much more important for this audience. And that's another consideration. How might their future look? These guys probably have some kids now, might want to have more kids in the future, but they're probably also thinking, what about if my parents come and live with me one day? So that starts to get down into what kind of land and houses are applicable. They want a house that has an ensuite of 2 of the bedrooms, because therefore they can have a multi-generational house. So these little things start to impact not just what we're putting out in the market in terms of comms, but actually the product and the diversity of what we're offering to people. And by doing this, we get into the nitty-gritty of what these guys really care about. Mike, the investor, isn't asking anyone their opinion, because he knows he's got his information, maybe his financial planner, but certainly not his parents. Whereas for Ram and his wife, they're going to be talking to their parents about it. And there's some cultural watch-outs as well. So for example, if I gave these guys a brochure with a beautiful house with a ColourBond roof in it, and the parents saw that, the parents' associations with a ColourBond roof is that it looks like slums, which quite often is it can look like in South Asian countries. Now, Mike's not going to have that. Adam and Alana aren't going to have that. But culturally, that's something that's really important to this audience. And that's why we go this deep, to actually understand what's going to impact in terms of the visuals they see, in terms of the script of our sales agent, in terms of the website, all of those different things. So from here, once we've pulled together, who does our person look like? What do we know about them, their needs, their wants, their values, and their pain points? We can actually start mapping them across the whole buyer journey. So from the moment that they're unaware, but they know they want to buy some property, through to the point that when they're a customer. Now, don't forget, in the property journey, you become a customer, especially if you're buying new in a development like this, you become a customer, but it might take 18 months before you're actually living there. So this process can be quite long. And so it's when the sale is done, the sale isn't done here. It's not chewing gum. It's really long-term considered purchase. So we need to know all through that process, what are they looking for? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What are the information sources they have? And what are the experiences, actions, and triggers? What are the things that make them act? And so once we start to do that, we can look for what we like to call our gain points and our pain points, right? So our pain points are parts in the process that are hard, and some of them we can impact and some of them we can't. It's life. Life has some of those things in it. But we can also start to see with our gain points, where are the parts where we can play a bigger role to help make this process smooth? Understanding that my client can play that bigger role isn't about saying that I'm going to be able to sell the house straight away. It's about I'm asking someone to spend $500,000 to $2 million. This is a process. They need to be nurtured along it. So how can we, our project, our brand, play a stronger part across that? So once we've actually tapped into where are these pain and gain points, we can go, how can we help solve this? So for example, one of the most confusing things in property is the process in itself. If you come from another country, you come here to Australia, you want to buy property, you need to understand what conveyancing is, and mortgage lenders insurance, and capital gains tax, and all of these things that are especially relevant for if you are buying here in Victoria. So these people know they want to buy property, but they don't understand a lot of that terminology. That's a pain point for them. So how can we as a brand come along and help distill that, help make that a place where we can be a trusted advisor and help them through this whole journey? So you can see here that we can then start to map out where are our pain points and our gain points. So as we were talking about before, it's really important that people understand the buying process before they can actually make a decision to buy a house. They have to understand the terminology. They have to understand what to talk to the bank about, that types of things. So when we talk about Ramesh and his family, It's about, do we need to create something like a process explainer series, content that explains the process of home loan approval, of buying off the plan? Do we need an independent expert to deliver it as opposed to us as the developer? If we're talking to Ramesh, should that expert be someone older who is seen in more of a position of power? If it's Adam and Alana, the young guys, do they want to see someone like the barefoot investor who they see as like them and they see as younger and cares about the same things they do? Does the content need to be delivered in different languages? These guys, English is not going to be their first language. But if they're sharing it with their parents and their parents are a big decision maker, what do we need to look at that makes the content we're creating relevant for those parents as well? And you can see here in this journey mapping, we're going really deep. When we're going really deep, because this impacts every point of the sales journey. It impacts how the sales agent talks to the people who come into the sales office. It impacts the picture that we put into brochures and housing flyers. It impacts the website. It impacts the languages. It impacts where we can make a difference in people's lives as well. And all of this is underpinned by this Helix data. And one of the greatest tools I find in creating this type of work is using that persona data, finding the people, but then getting into that tool called Creative Briefs, where it goes down to language, it goes down to tone, it goes down to motivations and considerations. These are the values and the things that we can actually pull those levers. We can change the script for the sales agent. We can change images. We can create different language versions that actually let us treat every single buyer as an individual and understand that their journey is going to be different and that we need to nurture them along that. I think I mentioned earlier, this is the largest purchase most people will make in their lives. It's emotional, it's rational, it's got probably more stakeholders and discussion around it than any other purchase you're going to make. So making sure that we have understood drivers, values, motivation, and how we can support this audience across the whole journey is so important to us. And that's really where Helix Personas comes into its own. And like I said, it's part of that puzzle and that picture that we put together of our customers that helps us take, you know, what is a profile and turn it into an actionable piece of insightful work that, you know, is really fulsome and impacts everything across our projects. So thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed understanding how we use Helix Personas to come to life for some of our property clients.